My cousin Thomas slammed the shop door shut in the middle of a family reunion with 23 relatives present and dropped a line that shattered 33 years of silence. The sound of tools stopped in the air, beer mugs froze in hands. Even the sizzling of the grill in the background seemed to disappear. Even the hot wind from the Nevada desert stopped. He shouted, "They robbed you, Carlos!" Thomas, the family lawyer, stepped forward and dropped a heavy folder on the middle table with a loud thud. And in that instant, before anyone could open their mouth, I realized someone in that shop wasn't surprised, but terrified. My name is Carlos Mendez, 47 years old, and for most of my life, I believed hard work made up for silence. I lived in a mechanic shop I inherited from my father in Elko, Nevada. The smell of diesel oil and grease soaked into the walls since 1982. My wife Janet worked as a nurse at the regional hospital, double shifts every week, her uniform always smelling faintly of hospital disinfectant. She was the only person who saw how hard I worked to keep that business alive.
10 years ago, when Janet got sick and we needed help with medical bills, I called Robert. He answered, his voice cold and professional. "Cousin, you've asked for help 3 times this year. We need to set healthy boundaries." That same month, he bought a brand new Audi A6 and posted photos on Facebook with the caption, "Rewards of Hard Work." 6 months later, I sat down with my aunt during Thanksgiving. I gathered courage and mentioned the shop was struggling, that I needed just $12,000 to avoid closing. Denise looked at her plate, cutting the turkey carefully. "Carlos, you've always had bad money management. I can't support your bad decisions." That night, while washing dishes alone in the shop's kitchen, I heard Robert laughing loudly in the living room, talking about how he'd just invested $8,000 in a promising tech startup. I started with $340 in my account and a shop with leaks in the ceiling. In the first 6 months, I fixed 14 mining trucks, working through entire nights, each job paid in cash. 2 years later, I got a contract with the biggest transport company in Elko, $180,000 yearly in preventative fleet maintenance. By the 4th year, the shop employed 8 specialized mechanics, served 4 counties, and had contracts with the State Public Works Department. Denise and Robert never asked how I was doing, never visited the shop, never noticed I'd stopped asking for help. 3 weeks after the barbecue, my phone rang. It was my cousin Andrew, his voice strangely friendly. "Carlos, Grandma's not doing well. Family meeting on Saturday."
Thomas arrived at the shop on Wednesday, leather briefcase under his arm. Without warning, he pulled up a metal chair and opened the briefcase with a rough movement. Documents spread out. Bank transfers dated from 1992 to 2024, each one with my Aunt Denise's signature. "Your father left an inheritance of $280,000 when he died," Thomas said, his voice low. "Divided equally between you and Denise. You never got anything." My throat tightened. 33 years of silence started to make twisted sense. Thomas slid another paper across the grease-stained table. March 3rd, 1992, deposit of $140,000 into Denise's account. April 14th, 1993, renovation of her house, $45,000. November 22nd, 2005, purchase of the Audi, $62,000. He turned 3 pages, quick fingers marking dates. The pattern repeated in 11 transactions over 3 decades. Each line was a punch to the stomach, each date a lie I'd swallowed. Thomas leaned forward, his eyes fixed on mine. "Carlos, there's more. She did this to 2 other cousins in Montana and Idaho. Same pattern, inheritance divided. One side gets everything, the other never finds out." He pushed a photo. My distant cousin, Kevin, in a worn-down trailer in Bozeman. Kevin died thinking his father hadn't left him anything. My chest burned. Every time I'd struggled to pay for repairs, it hadn't been fate, it had been systematic theft. I looked at the scattered papers, at her signatures, clear and without regret. Thomas said, "You need to decide how far this goes." 3 options crystallized in my mind. Option 1, ignore it. Let the past stay buried. Keep family peace. Option 2, confront privately. Ask for the money back. Avoid scandal. Option 3, expose publicly. Sue. Demand complete justice in front of all 23 relatives. I closed the folder, straightened my back. I want everything back. Every penny, every receipt, every witness. In the following 3 days, Thomas gathered certified copies of all documentation. Death certificates, my father's original will, bank statements since 1992. Janet helped me organize a visual timeline on poster boards, each transaction marked with red pen. I called Kevin Jr., son of the cousin who died, and he sent a statement by email. My father always believed he'd been forgotten. He died thinking he was worth nothing to the family. On Friday night, I reviewed everything alone in the shop. The smell of diesel oil mixed with old paper. Thomas called. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Are you ready?" "Ready," I answered, my voice firm. On Saturday morning, I woke up early. I put on a clean navy blue button-down shirt, jeans without stains, polished work boots. Janet hugged me at the door. "You're going to turn the tables today." I placed Thomas's folder on the passenger seat and drove the 2 hours to Reno. The Nevada desert stretched out under a cloudless sky. For the first time in 33 years, I didn't feel fear. I felt absolute clarity, pieces in place, truth armed. Aunt Denise's house in Reno smelled of polished cedar and freshly brewed coffee when I entered at 2:07 p.m. The crystal chandelier in the hall cast golden light over silver picture frames and Italian marble flooring. 23 relatives filled the room, uncles, cousins, some influential neighbors my aunt always invited to make an impression. Denise commanded from the center, next to the stone fireplace, surrounded by attentive supporters. Robert stood in the back, arms crossed, leather briefcase under his arm. I handed my coat to the maid, the navy blue blazer underneath it without a single wrinkle. Denise tapped a silver spoon on her wine glass, the clinking cutting through conversations. Silence fell like fog. She smiled, adjusting her pearl necklace. "Family," she began, her voice soft but loaded. "We need to talk about something delicate." The guests turned, some lifting phones quietly. She opened a thin folder, pages organized like evidence in a courtroom. "Carlos has always had financial difficulties," she said, her voice tinged with fake concern. "I need everyone to know he's been asking me for money for decades, claiming his father didn't leave him anything." My cousin Andrew nodded. My cousin Julia frowned with false compassion. Denise turned a page with dramatic flair. "But today, with the family gathered, I think it's fair to make clear that my brother, Carlos's father, died without a penny."
Thomas stepped forward, his voice calm but firm, cutting through the space. "Aunt Denise, can I see those documents?" She hesitated, then handed over the folder with a confident smile. Thomas flipped through slowly, his eyes running over the pages. "You're right about one thing," he said, turning to the last page. "The will was clear. Inheritance of $280,000, divided equally between you and Carlos." The room froze. Thomas's voice didn't change tone. "March 3rd, 1992. Deposit of $140,000 into Denise Crawford's account. Carlos Mendez, no deposit recorded." Denise's smile faltered. Her hand gripped the table's edge. Gasps exploded from all corners. My cousin Julia dropped her napkin, the white fabric sliding to the floor. Uncle Raymond's whiskey glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the marble floor, amber liquid spreading at his feet.
Andrew stepped back, hands raised, as if distancing himself from a bomb about to explode. Denise opened her mouth, closed it, her face losing color. Phones that were filming were slowly lowered. Denise found her voice again, stuttering. This is a misunderstanding. I was going to return the money to him. I always planned to. Thomas didn't blink. Return it when, exactly? He turned another page. April 14th, 1993. Renovation of your house, $45,000. November 22nd, 2005. Purchase of Robert's Audi, $62,000. Pattern repeated in 11 transactions over 33 years. His voice was surgical, without emotion. You weren't planning to return it. You were planning to hide it. I grabbed my own folder, dark gray, heavy, and placed it on the coffee table with a loud thud. Denise looked at it as if it were poison. "What's that?" she whispered. I opened it slowly, turning it so everyone could see. My father's death certificate, Paul Mendez. Original will signed in 1989, witnesses included. My finger slid across the line. Clause 3. Equal division between Denise Crawford and Carlos Mendez. Total amount, $280,000. I turned the next page. Certified bank statements from 1992 to 2024. Every deposit, every withdrawal, every use of the money that should have been mine. Denise leaned forward, eyes wide. "You can't prove." I pointed to the signature in the corner. "That's your handwriting, Aunt. Dated March 3rd, 1992. 3 days after my father's funeral."
Thomas stepped beside me, arms crossed. Carlos is filing a civil lawsuit for wrongful appropriation of inheritance, emotional damages, and financial losses accumulated over 33 years. His voice echoed in the silence. Estimated lawsuit value, $1.4 million, including monetary correction and interest. Uncle Raymond turned to Denise, his voice low but audible. "You stole from your own nephew?" Julia covered her mouth with her hand, slowly shaking her head. Denise's legs trembled. She leaned on the fireplace's edge, fingers white from gripping so hard. I can explain." But no one was listening. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything? Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Leave your story in the comments. We want to know how you dealt with it. The room remained frozen. The background music that was playing softly stopped. The waiters in the kitchen stopped moving. Denise stood alone in the center of the Persian rug she'd bought with the money she'd stolen. I turned toward the door, my steps deliberate, unhurried. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel triumph. I felt clarity. Behind me, the silence was absolute. I turned without looking back. Denise remained frozen in the center of the room, fingers still gripping the fireplace's edge, surrounded by the awkward silence of 23 relatives who finally knew the truth. I crossed the room with firm steps, unhurried, without hesitation. The gray folder under my arm. The suffocating heat of the house's air conditioning gave way to the dry cold of the Nevada desert at 4:42 p.m. The hot wind swept across my face, filling my lungs with clean air. When I arrived at the shop in Elko 2 hours later, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I parked in my usual spot, next to the air compressor that hissed quietly. I sat in the office chair, surrounded by the familiar smell of diesel oil and rust, and closed my eyes. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel anger. I felt a mix of relief and grief. Grief for the family I never had. Relief for the burden I finally dropped. Janet entered quietly, placing hot coffee on the desk without saying anything. She knew I didn't need words. For the first time in 33 years, the silence of the shop didn't feel like loneliness, it felt like peace. 3 months later, the consequences finally materialized. Denise lost the house in Reno, foreclosure, after a court ordered the return of $1.1 million of the
6 months after the confrontation, the shop was expanding. With the recovered money, I bought the lot next door and built the second service bay. I hired 3 new mechanics, all young people from Elko who needed a chance, just like I needed. Janet and I moved to a modest house 15 minutes from the shop. 2 bedrooms, wooden porch with a view of the Ruby Mountains. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Thomas visited at the opening of the new bay, bringing craft beer from Reno. "You built something real," he said, looking around. "No shortcuts, no stealing from anyone." I nodded, watching my employees working. For the first time, my business wasn't just survival, it was purpose. I learned that distance can be an act of love, not hate, not revenge. Love for yourself, for the peace you refuse to give up. My aunt never truly asked for forgiveness. She asked me to forget, to let it go, to preserve family harmony. But harmony built on silence isn't peace. It's complicity. If you've ever walked away from someone who was supposed to protect you, know that you're not alone. You're not cruel for choosing yourself. You're brave. Your boundaries matter. Your truth matters. And sometimes the greatest strength isn't in forgiving. It's in rebuilding far from those who never saw you. Today, when I look at the Nevada desert at dawn with Janet by my side and the shop buzzing with life, I don't miss the family I lost, because I never had that family. What I lost was the illusion, and what I gained was myself.